Now let's look at subtracting real numbers. The difference, a minus b, is the number c for which a equals b plus c. And to subtract, add the opposite of the number being subtracted. And that's the most important thing to remember. So let's look at a real quick example of add the opposite. And we'll just take a very basic problem that you're very familiar with what the answer already is. So if I had 5 minus 3, we could all agree that that is 2. There's no debate over that. If I said, what's 5 plus negative 3? Well, in the previous lesson, we said that when we were adding integers with different signs, or adding numbers with different signs, we actually subtract, keep the sign of the larger. So this would also be positive 2. So these two problems give us the same answer, which means 5 minus 3 and 5 plus negative 3 mean the same thing. So we're going to use that when we're solving subtraction problems. We're actually going to rewrite all of them as addition problems and then use our addition rules. So let's look at some samples. So 4 minus 14 would be the same thing as 4 plus negative 14. Signs are different. Subtract, keep the sign of the larger. So 4 and 14, when you subtract that, you're going to get 10. And which number has the larger absolute value? Well, that would be the negative 14. So we'll say that the answer is also negative, because we keep the sign of the larger absolute value. Okay, let's look at this next one. Negative 10 minus negative 10. So that's going to be negative 10, and now add the opposite. So add the opposite of negative 10 is positive 10. So negative 10 plus 10, well, that actually ends up being 0. Now, one way that you can kind of do this is if you write the problem down, or if it's already written for you, add the opposite. So add, and I just make it a plus sign, add, and then the opposite of a negative is a positive. The previous problem I would have added, I'm trying to make that an addition sign. And then put a negative in front of that. So in this next problem, if I want to add the opposite, it's going to be the same thing as negative 2 plus 17. Signs are different, so I'm actually going to subtract. 2 and 17 subtracted is 15, and it will stay positive. So let's try another one. 13 minus 20, that's going to be the same thing as 13 plus negative 20. So signs are different, subtract, keep the sign of larger absolute value, so it'll be a negative 7. So what happens if their fractions are decimals? Same thing. So let's look at this problem here. Negative 1/9 minus negative, so that'll be plus positive 5/6. So I am actually going to have to subtract, because I do have a negative and a positive, but before I do that, I need a common denominator. So I'm going to multiply, well, 9 and 6. The first number they both go into is 18. So I'm going to have to multiply this one by 3 over 3. And I'm going to have to multiply this one by 2 over 2. So I'm going to get two brand new fractions. My first one, 1/9 times 2 over 2, is going to be 2/18. Remember, it's negative. And then 5/6 times 3 over 3 is going to be 15/18. So I keep my denominator. My numerators are a -2 and a 15, so I actually subtract, keep the sign of the larger, so 13/18 positive would be my answer. Decimals, again, we're using the same sign rules. It would be 2.6 minus a negative is a plus positive. So 2.6 plus 5.2 is going to be, well, the 6 and the 2, that is 8. Then I have the decimal, and 5 and 2 is 7, so 7.8. So again, the rules, whether they're fractions or decimals or integers, are all the same. If it's a negative plus a negative, it stays negative. If it's a positive plus a positive, it stays positive. If one's a positive, one's a negative, it's whatever the sign of the larger absolute value is, but you have to actually subtract. And again, these are all subtraction problems to start off with, but we're rewriting them as addition problems by adding the opposite. Let's look at the very last one at the bottom. When you have a string of numbers like this, and you've got some positives and negatives and minus and plus, and what do? I like to rewrite this. So when I see subtracting a negative, I know that that's going to add the opposite, or plus positive. I see subtracting 36, I know that's the same thing as adding a negative 36. And when I see subtracting 9, I know that's the same thing as adding negative 9. So my new problem is really going to be 32 plus 25 plus negative 36 plus 17 plus negative 9. Now all I've done is rewrite the problem. I haven't really done any computation yet, but the nice thing about rewriting it is then I can actually have an easier time of adding my numbers together. I know that I can combine my negative numbers together very easily, and obviously I can combine my positive numbers together very easily. So if I were solving this problem, or evaluating, I would simply have to add 32, 25, and 17. Those are all my positives. It's going to give me 14. That's 74. And if I add my negatives of negative 36 and negative 9, that's going to give me negative 45. And now 74 and negative 45, my signs are different, so I'm actually going to have to subtract 74 minus 45. And that's going to give me 29.